टुन 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 कहाँ जाओगी? पिल 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 तालाब हो जाएगी ना चीज। दूसरी ले ले ले, दूसरी ले ले, कछु ले ले, कछु ले ले तू। Hello everyone, we have to discuss about that interview guideline series.
जाए देख लो ना कब हो रहा है।
ले
पम कितने आ रही है? ले
quality to be the abused during the UPSC interview and probable questions and how to tackle them and IS interview and vital aspects of the preparations and how to approach CSE when preparing for the IS interview. Write the perspectives self mock questions.
चामेंगे मेरे 70 नंबर का है ना सीसेट का होगा आरती
सीसेट। हाँ अच्छे होंगे, बस कोई मतलब नहीं। 33 नंबर भी 40 भी आ जाता ना तो इतने जाके इतनी ज़्यादा मायने नहीं है।
बामे आ जाते ना इतना दिक्कत नहीं है।
Qualities to be the assumed during the UPSC interview and many interview sessions follow other bell structures pattern, but IS interview is and the exceptions to this the far from the beings conducted under other structural format. It is and the exercise in which and the engaging conversations takes place between the board and the candidate, thus the contrary to the popular perceptions of interview being other questions answer session. It is much more than that in other setting, which is the formals but the undirected ones, and the undirected means other natural course is followed at the interview rather than other predetermined session. The interview sessions and seeks to the evaluate other candidate on the below giving qualities. Other proper understandings of what he is going to be the tested for will makes other candidate preparation close to its need. IS interview is not about a mere question answer sessions, a test of knowledge or plethora of information, a deliberated attempt to pin you down by the difficult questions having extraordinary expectations from you. Quality to be the assumed during the interview. UPSC every times in its the notifications outlines the board qualities that will be the assumed during the interview sessions, and thus the qualities are expected below for better understanding. Interview guideline series. The mental alertness. Mental alertness means being at the time and place and wholehearted and presence and engagement. In other words, it is about presence of mind, and which is opposite of absent mindedness. Once or twice, and you may the politely ask the board members, and sir, please tell me the question again. What the repeatedly and missing the point and queries signifies lack of the mental alertness. Also failing to understand the context and indications as to why a question have been asked, and also missing occasions hint related to queries from board members can be taken a lack of members alertness. Critical power of assimilations. This is not just about I have read or I know, but also about whether you have the reflected and introspected and the examine and weightage to understand matter of the fact and drawn reasons and conclusion. Clear and logical expositions. You can be clear in expositions only if you understand a things And logically expositions also means that anything that you say should not be the devote of order first things and first following by the next important one, be it simple listenings of relevant fact and cues reason etc while answering. It is about avoiding and the vagueness and the treating your statement as axiomatic as if everybody should accepted it without suspending and be convinced. And clarity and logical expositions convince the listeners or aid the list you may your point whether they agree or not, and you have an explanation for what you say. Balance of judgment, being judgment about any event, things, or the persons on the basic limitations, understanding indicated fact, prejudices, and preference or bias, if greatest of all the intellectual failures. And before we judge, we must try to take other natural and honest position on one hand and a the proper sense and understanding of ground realities. Balance of judgment can be achieved by considering pros and cons and goods and good and the bad cost of the and benefits and moral and ethically as well as long term implications of other things, policy measures or other positions and that we take. Ability for social cohesion and leadership. A prospective civil servant should have other mindset and attitude to understand the need and importance of the social cohesion while fulfilling his duties. And in all her and his public utterance and posturings and interactions, India is the country which stands for units in diversities and our constitution value. And also significant that this awareness should be the reflected in the thought and action of the civil servant. Leadership is about knowing the path and showing the path and the leading the path, and it is not just about the fleeing the problems and but also about the willingness and ability to find solutions. And leadership are also about team spirit, giving due consideration and credits to all the stakeholders. It is also about being cool, calm, and patient and optimistic. It is also about the endurance and resilience. It is also about giving and ensuring a maximum benefits pupils at the same time, avoiding being populist or irrational, especially with regard to the optimizations of resources and their outcomes. Last but not the least, a leader is one who, through his the sincerely honesty and integrity and hard work and hard because
पट्टी लाने वो 30 रुपया की बस बेच में लड़का मारते काले टोकन नहीं चाहिए
last but not the least, and the leader is one who the thought his sincerely honesty and integrity and hard work becomes other role model for the public, and thus things must be the reflected in our the thought process, intellectuals and morals integrity. A public servant elicits and trust and credibility and confidence among pupils if her and her morals and intellectual integrity is above board and beyond doubt. This not only makes and civil servant a perfect role model and but also the makes governance more human and the worthy. So IS interview is about judging your authentic self and an interactive friendly sessions and expressing your opinion and stand on vital issues, exploring the quality of the honesty, integrity, commitment, leadership, etc. Testing you more on Tasting you more on where's and you now rather than where you do not now. Problem questions and how to tackle them. An interview, and more so an IS interview, is the mainly about question being raised by the board members and answer being the offered by the candidates. Thus, anticipating questions and formulating theirs the answer is an the important part of the interview preparation. After the acquainting of oneself with the purpose and techniques of the interview, and one must turn and once the attentions on creating a pool of probables and questions on a variety of topic and formulated their answer explanations that sound logical, then acceptance to the interview board, and this the exercise will the minimize the supremize element during the interview sessions is there most of the questions and will appears to have been asked on the expected topic. Area wise analysis of the question. Educational background in this session question will the pattern. Education background in the session question will the pattern. To the name of the school, college, subjected study, there are the performance in term of the marks or the graded obtained. You must know what is the significance of the name of your school, colleges, when and why, whom it was established, and any the alumni, and you can the recall from the institute and you have the studies in it, and say for example, if you have studied in a school called the Navodaya Vidyalaya, you should know the objectives of the such schools and you personal experience about its value and included by you from your associations and with the school. Parental background. In some cases, they will be also take the interested in your parents' occupation by asking and you as to what you have the learn and from there the professional experience, and if your parents are role model for you. If your parents are role model for you. Work experience, if you have worked in the private sector or under government, and they will definitely ask and you couples of ask questions related to your job descriptions, and you are the expected to know on what your organization is all about and detailed of a task and performed by you want to leave and that job and want to join civil service, and how your job experience can help you in your careers in civil service, state to which you belong. A wide range of the question and will be the raised on your the states raised on your state, and it is the culture historical importance, law and order, situation, governance and performance, or various economic indicators, and state of agriculture, industrialization, resources available, and solution to various problems of your state, and will constitute and areas on which question will be asked. Hobby, extracurriculum activities. On your hobbies, question are meant and to access your genuine interested in what you pursue as your hobby. If reading is your hobby, and whether you read fictions or non and the fictions, and who is your favorite authors and which books you have read recently, are going to be the likely questions. Similarly, and if watching documentaries or the photographies is your hobby, they will delve deep in the subject and to find out your level of the commitment and interested in the stated hobby. Say for example, you have maintained and watching wildlife and documentaries and as your hobby. You will be asked to name other few famous Indians and foreign documentary makers and whether you have the watches their documentary or not, and if you are not able to recall any famous wildlife documentary maker name, and then it is going to leave other poor impressions before the board. Similarly, if you have mentioned yoga or meditations as your hobby, expected both the theoretical and practical questions on those hobby. For example, what is the underlying and philosophy of yoga, and who was its main proponent, and what books you have read on yoga, and what are leading yoga experts, and will be the areas of interest for the board members to ask questions. And this way you should frame likely questions on your different hobbies and fortify your knowledge on them. Why you want to join civil service? During the interview sessions, the common reference is why you want to join civil service. Almost every candidate is asked these questions by one or another member of the board. Through this question is common, it is don't not mean answers to it should be the common too, and rather than the soundings and idealistics, and you should offer other realistic answer to this question. Answer like I want to serve the nations, and or I want to serve the society, or it offers a diverse and challenging careers. Looks like an old repetitive and the cliche used by every candidate. A more realistic answer to this should be I want to join civil service for other numbers of reasons. First, it offers and job the security. Second, and it offers and some of the most coveted jobs under the government. And third I will derive and higher job satisfactions and in the civil services because of its diverse nature. Fourth, I consider civil services are not just a job and but other service with other deep public interface. And finally, it will the provided me and the opportunities and to be other part of the governing architectures and of the country. Another related question here and can be the how your knowledge and of the your discipline of study engineering and medicals. Engineering, medicine, agriculture, botany, etc. can be used in the administration to this, and you should say that such domains and knowledge will help and you understand the issues and better and will be the handy and to make better policies and decision. You can the substantials and this answer and with some examples. For examples, if you are from the medical background, and you can say that it will you can substantial and this answer and with the some example. For examples, and if you are not from medicals and background, you can say that it will and help you the formulated and more the practical health and policies and with your first hand and knowledge of the medicals and issues like this, and find relevant of your educationals and discipline in civil services before you face the interview board. Similarly, there will be the some questions and who's the answered, and you may and not now, and there are two ways and to tackle them. And first, if you don't know anything about the questions, and just politely and expected and it and say you don't know the answer. And second, if you have and some the big use idea about the question, and ask the board, and if you can try to the attempt it and with the some guys, if allowed, make an intelligence guys and answer it. Situation based questions. situation, not always but in many cases, and one of the board members and may raise the situation based question, and this can be the either on a the real situation that has the appeared in news or other hypotheticals one, and in both types of the situations and real or hypotheticals your answer must wait in which in all factors and then provide other solution that the sound implementables on ground and beneficiary to the country or the citizens and beneficial to the country or citizens and innovatives in thinking. For example, consider this status in situations. A conflict situation is getting out of the hand among two countries in some part of the world. The country interest is firmly embedded in both the conflicting parties involving multiple dimensions like economic, defense, diasporas, etc. You are part of the Ministry External Affairs and team have been asked to draft other statement explaining India positions, and now as the part of team and your hard stick to draft other statements should be Indian interested. In a situation like this, the first thing is the need to coordinated with both the parties to safety evacuates non-combatant and hence favoriting and one over other is outrightly and out of questions at least publicly no matter, and questions of human rights and aggregation are still here. The larger pictures involve defense cooperations and on one hand, which is vital as India is replaced in other hostiles and neighborhood and economic is important for growth and development. Hence a balanced response is needed which calls for dialogues over the conflict and use of India and effort toward other humanitarian corridor. करंट अफेयर पहले नंबर तो सिचुएशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चन आएंगे. कंडीशन current affairs since Ukraine Russia conflict is in the news and along with the United Nations it is the relevant and European Union zone of the influences etc along with the topic related to relevance the European Union zone of the influences etc along with the topic related to the geopolitics like the Quad rules based order are issues at hand now that can be the framed as question the conflict has led where the effect of the sanctions on the global orders, so questions on new global order etc are likely to touch on the various dimensions of globalization. As regard international issues, India G20 presidency and the opportunities India balancing act with the West, Beach and East and the especially among P5 India disputes with the neighbors like the China Gulf barriers and diplomacy. India advanced in the defense technology and its the impact on Act East policy. NATO and India strategic the autonomy and war crimes and the rule of the war, and with reference during the interview and Quad Indo-Pacific policy and India relations and China and Russia USA and could be areas of interest to the interview board, and in particulars read in detail about the recent development between the India and the China and the expected important. The best way to prepare for those topics is to read the editorial comment on related issue in good newspapers or for formulated your answer. Questions on social issues. There are other host of the issues and that relate to our society. For example, nutrition issues in children, women and the poor, inequality in online education, issues of mental health of citizens during the pandemic, rising domestic violence during the lockdown, and so on. You must embrace these topics with the compassion and offer solutions from both your heart and mind. Controversial questions. Controversial questions. There are many sensitive issues on which the taking the rights and state may look difficult to other candidate without the guidelines. My suggestions and hairs would be not to take and the extreme stand on them, and you should present both sides of the argument, assess their respective merits, and present a middle ground. You should not take other stand and that the sounds an anti-government, but you are free to point out to the failures of the government, failure of government, and suggested better policy measures. Some critical is always welcome, but you need not the appears like and the opposite party or a like and the newspaper articles in criticize government vehemently. To take an example on the controversial Hijad Rao, and rather than the opposings or defending the issues, take other stand for the encapsulates and both the perspectives, that of legal and religion, then suggested a conciliatory approach to solve the issues. Thus, by following the above advice, and you can reasonably hope to get many questions on expected lines with prior and preparations, so that you are not taken by the surprise during your interview. Aram. IS interview details aspected of the preparation. When it comes to preparing for the IS personality test, popularly known as IS interview, and the common questions in the mind of aspirants is how to prepare for it, and knowing little and about the way it is the conducted and the compositions of the opposite of the board, and method of the assessment and of the performance, allocation of marks, and the probable areas on which the questions shall be. Shall be raised, and it is the initiables, and that the candidate who is going to the project and watch himself before the board, and developed the anxieties and fears and mental blocks, and which may affected his performance adversely. Getting to know about the vital aspect of preparation is thus and the imperative need. How the interview session is conducted. In its the notification, UPSC clearly mentioned and both the purpose and the manners of the interview. It is quite and the instructive to read the UPSC guidelines in its the public notification. UPSC in its the notification stated that other candidate will be the asked a question of the general interest. The object of the interview personality test is to the access the personal stabilities of the candidate for other career in public service by other board of competent and unbiased observers. The technique of the interview personality test is not the strict cross-examination but of either natural thorough the directly and purposive conversations and which is the intended to reveal the mental qualities and of the candidates. The interview personality test is not the intended to be the test and either of the specialized and or the general knowledge of the candidates and which has already been tested through their written paper. Candidates are expected and to have taken an intelligence interest and not only in their the special subject of academics study but also in the event and that are happenings around and them, both within and outside, and there's the one state or country as well as on the modern currents of through and in the new discoveries and which the should rose the curiosities of the well-educated youth. A close readings and of the above and constructions issued by the UPSC removed all doubts and the apprehensions and about the interview. The major the derivations from UPSC instructions are the interview 6 to the access the whether other candidate is the suitable for the career in public service and his the traits of leadership, decisions making capacities and social cohesion, balance, judgment and moral and intellectual integrity, build the greatly determine his sustainability and for the public service. Board consists of the 5 members is other competent and unbiased and group of the experienced and experts. This will be the solely guided and by the objectives and criteria of other candidates merit without any the views of any kind. Everyone is treated as the equals before the board and the irrespective of his social, economically, academic background. The key used by the USA and is the purposives and the conversations during the interview sessions and by the engaging you in the conversations. The board will be the encourage and you to reveal your mental qualities such as the mental alertness, critical powers of the assessment, assimilations and the powers and the assimilations and clears and the local the expose positions and balance of the judgment, verity and the depth of the interest, ability for social cohesion and leadership, intellectuals and moral integrity. Finally, UPSC notification makes it the implies and clear that the current happenings in the state and to which other candidate belongs, nation and international happening and current the development in health, trade and science and the technology etc. will be taken up during the development in the health, trade, science and technology etc. will be taken up and during the final UPSC notification makes it the apply clears and that the current happening in the state in which the candidate belonging, nation and international happening, current development in health, trade, science and technology etc. and will be taken quite naturally. Current affairs constituted a good part of the interview. How the interview begins. When you enter the board and you will find yourself standing before 5 seniors and experienced members sitting opposite you of thus and one will be chairman of the board and who happened to be one of the members of UPSC, and quite often the chairman is other retired bureaucrats and from IPS, IFS or other or some centrals service of the remaining and four two members and happened to be from the bureaucracy, and while two are domain experts, and thus four members and come on the initiative by the UPSC to be the part of the board. And once you are asked to take your chair, and the chairman will the engage you in either short conversations for 5 to 7 minutes, and mostly the raisings and questions relating to your biodata, and now as DAF detailed application forms. Then he will direct another members to put his questions and before you. He may also raise and some questions and on the certain aspect of information furnished and by you in your DAF. Then he will ask questions and relating to economic governance, international issues, etc. This trade will the continued and during the remaining and part of the interview in other words and different the questions on economic and health, the government, etc. will be the posed by all the members, and moreover and certain well known question regarding your choice for the civil service and as other career. Hypothetical questions like how you will act in either giving a situations, and how will you and tackles and coronas in your districts, and if you are the district collector and are bound to be the resident during this kind of conversations, and there will be situation where the members will disagree and with you on your your positions and explanation. You must remain, and it is part of the interview process, and the disagreement is designed to test your balance responsible.